The Space Launch System SLS rocket and the entire Orion spacecraft will fly for the first time on Artemis I, a planned unmanned moon-circling mission. The next launch window opens on September 19, 2022, however it may not be able to launch until October 2022. The mission's previous name, Exploration Mission 1, or EM-1, was changed after the Artemis program was established. The Space Launch System rocket will carry out the mission's launch from Launch Complex 39B at the Kennedy Space Center. With at least 6 of those days spent in a far-off retrograde orbit around the Moon, the Orion spacecraft will be launched on a mission lasting between 26 and 42 days. The mission will deploy 10 CubeSat satellites after reaching orbit and completing a translunar injection burn to the Moon. The Orion spacecraft will then enter a far-off retrograde orbit for 6 days. Returning to Earth, the Orion spacecraft will re-enter the atmosphere while being shielded by its heat shield and splash down in the Pacific Ocean. With the launch of Artemis II, the mission will validate Orion and the Space Launch System for crewed missions. 5 decades after the final Apollo mission, Artemis I will be followed by the crewed lunar flyby of Artemis II, and the crewed lunar landing of Artemis III. After a string of delays brought on by issues with pre-flight testing, the completely stacked vehicle was wheeled out for launch on August 17, 2022, making it the first super heavy lift vehicle to be stacked inside NASA's Vehicle Assembly Building since the final Saturn V. The initial launch attempt was made on August 29, 2022, but was cancelled due to a bad reading on a redundant sensor. Due to a hydrogen leak, the second attempt on September 3, 2022, was also abandoned. NASA made the decision to forego any launch attempts in the launch window that concluded on September 6 the same day in order to concentrate on SLS troubleshooting. The following launch window opens on September 19, 2022. If you're anything like me, you've probably spent your entire life dreaming of a time when humans would visit distant planets and establish life-sustaining outposts throughout the solar system. While we haven't arrived there yet, the Artemis program, which is appropriately named after the Greek goddess of the moon and Apollo's sister, may mark the beginning of this daring undertaking. The Apollo program, which put the first humans on the moon, is a spiritual sibling of the Artemis. Come along with me today as we count down to the historic take a look inside the hood of the Orion, the most technologically advanced space shuttle ever built, and learn about NASA's audacious Artemis program ambitions. If everything goes according to plan, Artemis I will launch from Complex 39B at the Kennedy Space Center on Monday, August 29, 2022. On that day, 2 firsts will take place: the first Space Launch System rocket launch and the first flight of Orion, the only spacecraft currently capable of human deep space flight. Artemis I will be an uncrewed mission. The Orion shuttle has solar panels and can accommodate a crew of up to 6 people. An automated docking system, a life support system, a glass cockpit, and a launch abort system that can eject the crew module in the event of a catastrophic malfunction during ascent. 1 AJ-10 engine powers the shuttle's primary propulsion, while 8 or 4D-11 engines serve as thrusters for auxiliary propulsion. In addition to testing NASA's newest technology, the 25-day-long Artemis I mission will have a secondary payload of 10 CubeSats, which are tiny satellites that will conduct some cool independent testing. These include an orbiter designed to search for lunar ice, and will spend 6 of those days in a distant retrograde orbit, which means it will orbit the Moon in the opposite direction from the direction that the Moon orbits Earth. Assembled on the Space Launch System will be Orion. At launch, a massive rocket that is 111 meters tall will generate 8.8 million pounds of thrust, making it the most powerful rocket ever created. To generate enough force to overcome the gravitational pull of the Earth, the rocket will gain strength in phases. It sounds like a lot, but I don't think you can fully understand it without seeing it in action, so for your visual enjoyment here is a close-up of the engines being tested. The core stage and the 2 solid rocket boosters will fire up in a matter of minutes. The core stage, which houses 4 RS-25 engines, will burn through nearly 3 million liters of liquid propellant, while each booster will also burn through 900,000 kilograms of solid fuel. The Space Launch System will have reached Earth's low orbit at this point, but the shuttle will still need additional power to escape Earth's gravity. To do this, the SLS will perform a big move or translunar injection, and the upper part of the rocket called the interim cryogenic propulsion stage will then fire up and drop away, accelerating the Orion shuttle to nearly 40,000 feet. Once the core and boosters run out, the rocket will drop them, shedding excess weight. As Orion travels to Lunar's orbit, it will use its maneuvering engines to send the shuttle around the Moon's dark side before its boosters can put it on a course to return to Earth. While other shuttles have used comparable technologies in the past, Orion will now separate from its service module and re-enter Earth's atmosphere before splashing down with the aid of parachute. While other shuttles have used similar technologies in the past, SLS is unique in that it can carry extremely heavy payloads while sending human crews much farther than they have ever traveled. This extra power will be crucial for running complex and heavy payload missions and hopefully end with NASA's Horizon goal of a human colon. The control phantom will fly unprotected while the other will wear an asteroid radiation vest. Future Artemis missions will include both men and women, so it's critical to learn about the numerous health concerns that are unique to both male and female biology. NASA has only ever sent males to the Moon, no women. NASA expects that the data they gather will be helpful in preventing future crewed missions from being harmed by the intense solar and cosmic radiation that this program will expose future crews to outside of the Earth's shielding magnetic field. NASA has great ambitions if Artemis 1 is successful in the near future. In 2025, Artemis 3 will launch with 4 crew members, 2 of whom will make history by landing on the south pole of the Moon for the first time. Artemis 2 will carry 4 human crew members on a lunar flyby that will extend 16,000 kilometers beyond the Moon, farther than anyone has ever traveled. The astronauts who will be on this mission are already preparing for it as we speak, and in 2025, only 3 years from now, things will get even more exciting when NASA plans to deliver the first module for the International Space Station. This will be a historic occasion and may be helpful in inspiring future generations of women to develop an interest in space and STEM fields. Having access to water, ice, and mineral resources makes the Shackleton crater in the lunar South Pole the ideal location for the Artemis base camp, which will house up to 4 crew members for durations of a month. For longer ground missions, NASA also intends to create an open-top lunar terrain vehicle, or LTV, that astronauts will be able to travel in over 20 kilometers from base camp on the unforgiving lunar surface. The pressurized rover that NASA hopes to construct will enable astronauts to stay inside without donning spacesuits. If all of this seems like a great journey to you, there is good news. If we continue to establish a human and robotic presence on the Moon, it might ultimately become a tourist destination accessible to a larger population. That's right, in the future, you or I might be able to travel to the Moon. Who would you invite? The NASA Moon Kit, Music, allows you to post your ideas on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. NASA has already asked individuals to share their ideas. While NASA would have never ceased going, this may cause you to question why there is suddenly such a rush to return to the Moon. The true reason is money from the US government, which is acutely aware of the fierce competition in this market. The US government does not want to fall behind China in the race to the Moon, but as I mentioned earlier, the Artemis program's long-term objective is to establish a sustainable human presence on the Moon while also serving as a testing ground for a future, rudimentary mission to Mars. In 2029, NASA will introduce Block 2, an even more potent version of the Space Launch System that is capable of launching the Orion space shuttle. I don't know about you, but when Artemis 1 launches, I'll be glued to my computer watching all the latest news and updates. The time when we travel far beyond the Earth and inhabit other worlds may be closer than you think, so if this is an idea that excites you, you'll definitely want to stick around because I'll have a lot more about Artemis and space colonization in T. Thank you for viewing. Watch out for videos on space in the future.